Today we're going to be comparing two different classifications of page replacement algorithms, global page replacement and local frame replacement. We will explain how each one of these work, what makes one superior or inferior to the other, and the differences between them in terms of performance. With a local replacement strategy, the number of frames allocated to a process will always remain constant, and so when need be, it must select the victim frame from its own set of frames. And there is a benefit to this. Individual processes will always perform equally as it will never be affected by external influences. The process is only dealing within itself. However, this can also lead to other processes being obstructed, since a high priority process which might need to use more frames is not allowed to access the less used frames of another low priority process. With a global replacement strategy, a process is allowed to select a victim from a set of all frames. This means that its selected victim frame may be one that was previously allocated to a completely different process. When doing so, that process is increasing the number of frames that is allocated to it. This also means that a process may lose a frame or frames to another process, decreasing its number of allocated frames. The drawback to a global replacement strategy is that one process may perform differently in one environment than it does in another, since it's directly influenced by other processes. If we were to analyze processes on an individual level, global replacement can be inconsistent, though it makes up for that by generally being more efficient on the overall system than the local strategy. This efficiency is why it's the more widely used replacement strategy. For these examples, think of each different suit of playing cards as an individual process, and each individual playing card as a frame that is allocated to that process. Here we have 4 different processes, demonstrated by the hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. Each of these processes will begin with 4 allocated frames. In local allocation, each individual process is only allowed to select a victim frame from its own pool of frames, demonstrated here by each processes being segmented by each other. They are not allowed to select a frame that is currently allocated to a different process, so in the event of a frame being needed, they must select one of their own. In this case, the club's process needs a frame, but all 4 of them are currently in use, so this means that it must select one of its own to kill and use. Here it makes its selection, which is the 3 of clubs, then loads the king of clubs, its new content, into that frame. For global allocation, notice that each process's frames are not segmented off from each other. That is because in this allocation scheme, a process is allowed to select a victim frame from a set of all frames, even one used by another process. Each process here is also labeled in terms of priority level. In this example, we will say the diamonds process, which is of medium priority, is in need of a frame. But instead of having to select one from its own set of frames, it can select one from the spades or clubs set of frames, since they are of a low priority. In this case, it will select one from the spades process, as shown here, taking the victim frame away from the spades process and adding it to its own. So now the diamonds process of a medium priority has 5 frames allocated to it, and there are now 3 frames allocated to the low prioritized spades process. Let's take another example. What if the hearts process is in need of a frame? What would happen in global frame allocation is that again it will select a victim frame from a lower priority process, which there is in this case, and adding it to its own, reducing the amount of frames allocated from the lower priority process and increasing the amount of frames in the hearts process. So let's say it's decided for the hearts process of a high priority to select a victim frame from the clubs process. It will select that low prioritized frame of clubs and replace it as a hearts frame, therefore increasing efficiency of the overall system, which is what we want. So there you have it, local and global frame allocation. We hope to have helped you understand this concept in operating systems and wish you the best.